Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So today we will be starting a page in The Magical Journey by Lizzie Mary Cullen. I will be using my Inktense set of 36, and you will need a water brush and a paper towel. So here are pictures of the Fushimi Inari shrine in Kyoto, Japan. I'm probably saying that incorrectly, but the picture that I chose will be very much inspired by these beautiful poppy reds and oranges that I saw when I looked on Pinterest of pictures of it, because it is a real life place. And it's just breathtaking how the colors are. And here's a little fox, because there are a couple of foxes on our picture. So I will be starting with poppy red. And I have so kindly popped the color names in the video, partly because I'm lazy and I don't want to put them in the description, or I might forget to put them in the description. So I've put them on screen for you to help. So I'm going to start on the left side of this image, and I chose to make the left side where the darkest part of my colors will be, because the left side is where I want to put my shadows. And I'm going to put poppy red down heavier on that side, because it will act as a guideline when I come in to add my darkest color. So I've always loved this picture, mostly because of the foxes. I think they're so cute, and foxes remind me of my dog for some reason. But I chose this picture because I did want to do it a while back and I never started it. And I feel like this is one of the least busiest pages that I could start to help you guys figure out your Lizzie Mary Cullen books. Now I am putting poppy red down heavier where I want the shadows to be, because again, it will act as a guide when I add my darkest color. So I'm just making sure that I am lightly bringing my color out toward the right, because that will be where the lightest part will be for me. And if you did not notice, I am doing a voiceover because I just found out that my crappy little editing app that I have can let me do voiceovers, and I've been wanting to do voiceovers for quite some time, because sometimes I just want to color and I don't necessarily want to talk while I'm coloring. And I've always wanted to figure out if I could do a voiceover, and I figured it out and I'm super pumped about it. So hopefully this goes over well, and this will be a format that I can use in the future sometimes. So I kind of put a little poppy red at the top, but then I realized that I'm going to make it black like I did the one in the foreground. And the reason that I did not record me doing the first one in the foreground was because, one, my phone died. And I'm kind of happy it died, because I did not like my color combination that I did on that first one. On the first one, I did incorporate tangerine into the poppy red, and it just did not look right to me, because I've been coloring skin a lot, and I've been using a light hand with skin. And when I use my Inktense, I like to use a medium to heavy hand, and I totally forgot that that's what I was supposed to be doing. So my colors did not come out the way I wanted, and I tried my best to salvage it. And I went over it with pencil, actually, some poppy red and Prismacolor for that first archway. Probably not the correct terminology for them, but I'm going to call them archways. Yeah, so that first one did not turn out the way I wanted, and I'm happy that my phone died, because I did not like it at all. And I don't know why my bonehead self did not try to color the one that I'm coloring now to test something out, instead of going straight for the big guy. But that's just how I roll. I never really plan anything out, and if I make mistakes, I just pretty much try to salvage it and roll with the punches and just do the best I can to fix it. So here on this shrine, I'm using poppy red again, and I am putting the shadow on the left on this guy as well, because that's where I would like my darkest part to be. And I am by no means an expert in shading or shadows or anything. I just do what looks good to my eye, and that's pretty much how I roll when I color. But for this one, I think because it's a little bit further in the background, that it will be a bit darker. So I'm going a bit darker on this one. And if you want to see some really amazing, awesome tutorials or color alongs for Lizzie Mary Cullen books, please check out Coloring with Elena. If you do not know of her, that's ALENA. Her channel is chock full of Lizzie Mary Cullen videos. She has playlists. She's way better at it than me. And if you don't know about her, go check her out, because she uses some great colors and her videos on these are very helpful and inspiring. So I'm just making sure to lightly put my poppy red toward the right of this shrine top. I guess I don't know the correct names for these things, so forgive me. And then I'm going to come in with my ink black, because it's my darkest color that I'm going to use for my shadows on everything. And we're going to place it pretty much where I put the darkest part of my poppy red, because like I said, it acts as a guideline and helps me to figure out where my darkest shadow color would be. So recently, if you haven't seen, I did create a poll to ask which videos I should be filming next, because I do need help trying to figure out what you all would like to see, because you may not want to see what I want to do in particular sometimes. And I know Lizzie Mary Cullen was not the most popular choice. It was skin, and I know that some people may not watch this video because they're not interested in Lizzie Mary Cullen, and that's totally fine. But yes, I know skin won, and I think I'm going to get around to it. I'm just not looking forward to doing so. I'm kind of dreading it, actually, because I feel like there are so many skin tutorials on YouTube already, way better than me, and there are so many that you could learn from, and they're very helpful. But I'll get around to it, y'all. I'll figure out something, but I'm just not looking forward to doing it, to be honest. So here I'm just making sure that I'm putting down my ink black where I want my shadows to be. But I do really like Lizzie Mary Cullen's style and her illustrations, and at first I didn't like them, but watching Coloring with Elena's channel really inspired me and made me feel like it's easy once you approach it with an open mind, and it doesn't seem as off-putting and intimidating. So hopefully I can help you all with that. If you own some Lizzie books, I'll be like Shrek and your donkey, and I'm helping to carry you across that big scary bridge. Hopefully. But I'm attracted to Lizzie's work mostly because I don't know, that it has some type of charm to it to me, and I know it's very busy and it seems very intricate, and it can be intimidating. But once you start to put color on the page and you start to color the image, you can figure out what is what, and for the most part, and what goes where, and that's part of the fun for me. I really enjoy doing that. It's kind of like a puzzle. So here I am making sure I put the ink black toward the left where I want the darkest shadows to be, and like I said, this guy here in the corner will be a bit darker because he's in the background. And while I color this picture, the only thing I could think of for the bottom of these shrine poles were cow hooves, because they look like if I was to draw a cow or a cow leg, I would pretty much draw it like that, and they look like hooves to me. I don't know why, but I can't get it out of my head, and I probably got it stuck in yours now, so I am sorry about that. So here I am putting my water down, and I'm starting with the lightest and then I go into the darkest. Now I'm no expert at Inktense, I'm still learning my Inktense, but that's pretty much the way that I like to roll when I use them. Sometimes I'll go for the darkest area first. It really just all depends on the look that I'm going for. And for here, I would like to start with the lightest, and then I bring the darkest color into it so that it can have some kind of blend. can't forget about the little tiny part. It's barely visible, but it's there. So I am just wetting the lightest part, trying to work it in to where I have put the darkest color for the shadows. But I'm really excited to have discovered that my phone has this voiceover capability. Like, y'all don't even know. I love y'all and I love to make videos, but sometimes I feel like if I shut up and just color, I can get way more accomplished than always talking while I color. And I feel like I really did get a good chunk of this done when I actually sat and could concentrate a little harder. And it went pretty well. So hopefully this voiceover little format will work out. So now I'm going to start on the next part, and I am starting again with the lightest part, and I'm blending the darkest color into it. So I'm hoping that once I finish the picture, I won't concentrate so much on that big the big archway that I did first, because it just did not work out for me last night. This is a different day, by the way, that I'm recording the voiceover. I mean, in its totality, it probably will look pretty cool, but when I just look at it by itself, I was like, no. But once I've colored the rest of these shrines, I'm like, oh, okay, it's not so bad, but it'll do, pig. It'll do. So I'm just making sure to start with my lightest because I want the highlight visible. And I am a hyper wiper when it comes to using my Inktense. That's what I call it, a hyper wiper, because I wipe my brush tip off so much. And mostly it's because I like to keep my brush clean. And when you keep your brush clean, you don't intermingle the colors, where you might put a really dark color with your light color, and then it'll be really hard to get rid of that, because Inktense are ink, obviously, and once the ink is wet and it sets, it's really hard to move it. So it's very important to keep your brush tip clean. So I'm just making sure that I'm getting the black represented really well. And if you have the full set of Inktense, feel free to use whichever colors you want. This is technically going to be titled a color along if you would like to follow along with what I'm doing. And like I said, I pretty much used the same colors in the first one that I did off camera, except I incorporated tangerine, but it was too light of a hand and it doesn't really show up. Yeah, feel free to use whichever colors you would like if you're going to color this picture, or if you're going to do a completely different Lizzie picture. I just want to be able to take some of the trepidation away from starting a Lizzie Mary Cullen picture, because really they're not that bad once you get started. Like I said, everything becomes more open to you to be able to see everything once you start putting color down. And I have fun in these books because I don't have to concentrate so much. So I think that's a good thing too. So that's pretty much what we're looking like for this part. Okay, so next we're going to kick things off using charcoal gray. And that's the only color that I'm going to use for doing the stairs all the way to the left here. And I'm just making sure that I have my page extended all the way to the end, because I don't want to color on the next page. I have been known to do so many a times, and I just have to always keep myself in check to make sure that I have my page extended. So here I'm keeping with the theme of keeping my shadows to the left, and I'm making that part of the stairs darker. And as I come over to the right, I'm lightening my hand so that the color becomes lighter. And some parts of the stairs underneath, I am making it darker because I want them to not look so flat. I want them to be able to have some kind of dimension to them. And I will add a little bit of extra shadow under some of the stairs. I was initially going to make it brown, but I think the gray keeps with the color scheme that I have in mind for this page. Now, I don't plan out colors. I rarely ever plan out colors. I just pick up whatever color I want to start with, and then I plan my picture accordingly around that color. And I knew I wanted poppy and black, so I pretty much decided to use the gray for the stairs and the walkway that we'll do in this picture. So I'm just making sure to keep my darkest part to the left, like I said. And here I'm going under the stairs just to add a bit more shadow to give them some depth. And if I stop a couple times, it's because Jazzy was whining. Jazz is my dog, by the way, if you don't know. And yeah, he wanted my attention, and I had to stop to see what he wanted. So here under, I'm making sure I put shadow. And this is the last step, continuing with how I was going and lightening my hand as I come over to the right. And here I am making it darker because I want that to look like it's the bottom of the stairs, so the other stairs sitting on top of it, if that makes sense. And as I color this picture, the only thing I kept thinking was that the bottom of these shrine poles look like cow legs. Like if I was to draw a cow, I would definitely, it looks like a cow hoof. It just looks like a cow hoof. So I can't get that out of my head now when I look at the bottoms. So now I'm just making sure that my paper is straight, and I'm going to come in with my water. So I am starting with the lightest color, and I'm going to move it over into the darkest color. And I'm just making sure that I get that shadow for the under part represented. So I'm just continuing down the stairs, making sure that I have my shadows well, and then I am swooping across so that they don't look so flat. And I think they turned out pretty okay. And that is pretty much how the stairs will look. Okay, so next I will take charcoal gray and do the pathway that we have here on this side. and I'm starting at the bottom. Starting from the bottom, now we here. No, I'm starting from the bottom, and I am making it the darkest there, and then as we ascend upward, I'm going to lighten my hand so that the color is lighter. So this picture was pretty fun so far, and I look forward to continuing coloring the rest because I have some cool ideas for my foxes, and y'all will have to just wait and see what that will be. But that'll be in the next part maybe. I haven't filmed it yet. I've only done what you're going to see in this video, but I do have a cool idea for them. So I'm going to make sure I don't forget this little teeny tiny part over here. It kind of could be part of the sky if you wanted it to be, but to me that looks like it's still part of the pathway. And that's what I meant about having fun with Lizzie's pictures. It's really fun for me to figure out what everything is, and I never even noticed everything on the first or third or even fifth time looking at a picture. I don't notice some things, and then as I color it, I discover different parts of the picture, and it's fun because it's like, oh, look at that, I didn't know that was there. So I am keeping it dark at the bottom still for this next part. And hopefully me putting the color names on the screen is helpful for you guys, because let me tell you again, hats off to editors. Hats off to them. It's kind of frustrating trying to edit things sometimes, and I cannot imagine doing a whole movie or a TV show where you have like hours and hours of footage that you have to condense down to like an hour and a half. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. So just making sure to add my dark part at the bottom. And a lot of the time I just step back from my picture, not like figuratively step away, but I do that too sometimes. But I just take a sit back, stare at my picture, and see what more it needs and where I should put certain things. And I feel like that really helps you to put things in perspective, because if you just sat there in straight color and you don't take a step back, you may not see things the same way as you do while you're coloring it. So I think that that's a really good tip to keep in mind when you color. And sometimes I do put a picture down for a day, and then I come back to it the next day or whenever I want to look at it again, and it helps because it's like you have fresh eyes and you see things differently. So here I am just making like a crescent shape kinda for the top of the staircase, because I want it to have that kind of shadow represented right there. And I think it looks really cool. So now I'm going to come in with my water brush, and I am going to start with the lightest part and then blend it into the darkest part. And me wiping my brush off, even if it's the same color, I wipe my brush off. Like I said, I am a hyper wiper. And same for this part. I'm going to start with the lightest part, and I'm going to blend it into my darkest part. And I don't feel like I have to rush, but I feel like I have to rush when I use Inktense, because it's ink, it dries fast, and once the ink sets, it's really immovable. Like, it's really hard to move it around. And yeah, I feel like I have to be a little quick, so that's why I start with the lightest first. And here you'll see me do a swooping motion, and I swoop things because it helps it to blend better, and I don't know, I just think it really helps the colors come together. So here I'm doing the same thing. You probably see me swoop a little because I like to swoop. It helps give it some directional assistance for like how the color is going to go, if that makes sense. And I like the shadow that it creates, so it worked out. And we can't forget about our little teeny tiny corner over here. And we're doing pretty much the same thing. Okay, so I'm showing the pencil again. It's still charcoal gray, but what I'm showing you is a technique that I do sometimes, where I will take the tip of my water brush, tap it to the pencil, I get rid of the excess pigment, and then I go over the color again, and it really helps the color to blend together. And I highly recommend doing this when you're working with your Inktense because it really helps the color blend. Now, I do recommend please wipe it off before you touch your paper because it picks up a ton of pigment when you touch it straight to the pencil. Okay, surprise, surprise, charcoal gray yet again. So we're going to work on the right side of the pathway, and to me it snakes around, and that's what I meant about the fun of Lizzie's books, figuring out what everything is. So to me this is the pathway, and it snakes back down, and I'm going to continue with the charcoal gray. And I'm keeping the shadows still on the left side. It may not be correct, but hey, that's, like I said, that's what it looks like to me. I like how it looks. So I'm going to keep the shadows to the left on this pathway. And I'm going to start at the bottom, making it the darkest. I'm just seeing how I was figuring out if I wanted to keep it on the left or the right, and then I was like, yeah, I should just keep it on the left. So I'm just making sure that the darkest is on the left, and then as I ascend upwards, I'm lightening my hand. So I really hope you guys give it a try. If not this page, any page, because it really is fun. It looks intimidating, but it's so fun once you start. So I do have some pencil lines that I did not particularly fancy when I did this side of the walkway, and I will go over with a second layer just because I didn't like some of the pencil strokes that I did. And that's what I meant about Inktense being ink, because sometimes I have encountered where I probably made some pencil lines too hard and I couldn't get them out once I wet it. So, you know, I try not to do that. So while I colored this page, I was reminded of this movie that I watched not too long ago on Netflix called Earthquake Bird. Has anyone watched that? And it has Alicia Vikander, I think I'm saying her name right, from the Tomb Raider movies. And I haven't seen that movie because I grew up playing Tomb Raider on PlayStation, and I don't want my memories of the video game soiled if that movie was bad. So I did not see the movie, but she was in the movie Earthquake Bird on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, it's a pretty okay movie. It takes place in Japan. See, I had a point. It takes place in Japan, and it's like a romantic mystery thriller, I guess. To me, it really wasn't a mystery because I figured it out pretty soon by watching it, but it's a really cool movie to watch, and they really shoot in Japan, and it's beautiful. It's set in the 80s in Japan, so I don't know how much the aesthetic has changed, but it's beautiful there. I really want to visit there one day. And I didn't even know Japan had mines. I'm not worldly, I don't know a lot about other countries, but I did not know they had mines, and they took a trip to the mines in that movie. They rode on these little Vespas to get there, because I think it's kind of isolated. It's not in a city. I think they took a boat too. Like, it was kind of far from where they were staying at. I don't know if they stayed in Kyoto, where this is located. I can't remember. The cities are kind of complicated to name, but she basically plays a translator in that movie. I think she translates things from Japanese to English. So here I'm just going over with another layer of my charcoal gray to just smooth out some of those pencil lines. But yeah, that was what I thought of while I colored this picture. I thought of that movie. Now I'm going to come in with my water, and I'm going to start with the really skinny part, and I'm just going to swoop it around. Like I said, I like to swoop back and forth because it helps the color blend. I color in all different directions with my Inktense. I swoop, I do circles, I do back and forth. I do all types of motions because it's fun, you know. Now I'll move down to doing this pathway, and I'm going to start with the lightest part, and I'm going in directional strokes. And the reason I'm doing directional is because I think it'll help everything blend and it'll be smooth looking, and that is the look that I'm going for. And I think it just blends it so nicely. So I'm just continuing to get my pigment wet, even in the little teeny tiny parts. Making sure I get everything covered. So sorry it's going to be dark in this little corner. I mean, my lighting has never been the best. That's one of my main problems. You would think after having a channel for 2 years filming, I would have everything down, but I don't, and I can't promise that I will. So, sorry it's really dark in this corner, but I'm essentially doing the same thing, just starting with the lightest part of that, and then bringing it into the dark. Now, I will take my pencil. Again, same color, charcoal gray, and I'm going to touch my water brush to the tip just to bring some extra pigment into the pathway so that I can blend the colors a little bit better. And that's pretty much what we're going to accomplish in this part. So I really hope you guys try to color in your Lizzie Mary Cullen books. Hopefully I'm helping to take some of the intimidation away. So I really hope you give it a shot. And that's pretty much what we look like. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to